Good afternoon, everybody. You are looking at a live shot of the Potomac River where recovery operations are still going on, but we are going to have live coverage for you in 32 minutes of the new NTSB briefing on the investigation into the plane and helicopter crash in Washington, D.C. There will be a briefing by the NTSB at 4 p.m. ET, and we will be covering that briefing live for you. So actually, give me 1 second here. But we will see what they announce. It's interesting that they're having a briefing today because they just did a briefing yesterday where they said they were starting their investigation and they would provide updates when they have them. So they must have some sort of update. I'm thinking maybe the update will be about this. U.S. restricts helicopter flights after Washington crash. And the Reuters is reporting that the FAA has restricted helicopter flights to reduce the risk of another collision. An FAA official told Reuters the agency was barring most helicopters from parts of two routes near Reagan Airport in D.C. and only allowing police and medical helicopters in the area between the airport and nearby bridges. It was not clear how long those restrictions would last. So my guess is that if this is true, I would guess the NTSB might have something to say about this. So we'll see what we hear from them. Maybe that'll be a temporary restriction. I don't know if they're thinking of making it more permanent. I have no idea, but we'll see what they have to say. And we'll take some comments and questions on the air from you guys before then, and we'll talk about it after, and we'll bring you the latest updates here. Thanks so much to our moderators. We have moderating right now. Sarah55 is moderating. Thank you. We have Janet B. Thank you, Janet B, for moderating. Linda Belk and Larry on X, and Misha. Roberts Mayqueen is over there. Thank you for moderating. Also, we have, hang on a moment here. A Moment of Lovely, Big Ball of Yarn, LB Prairie Dawn, Idaho Star, McBritches, and Surly Dev. All over there on Twitch. And thanks so much to our Facebook moderators, too. We have Charlotte Webb is over there, and Margaret Riley moderating. Thank you. Now, officially, they call it a media briefing in their announcement, the NTSB. I have it press briefing in the headline. The title of the broadcast is press conference. I mean, I find these things are often used interchangeably. So I do believe they will be that. Their standard is that they talk about something and then they take questions. So just to be clear, that's what I anticipate the hearing, the event is they will present some information and updates, and then they will take questions. So that's why I've called it those various things. And hang on one moment here. Oh, look at this. Hey, look at this. The FAA just reposted this. This was just posted by Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy. Look, with the support of the President and in consultation with the Secretary of Defense, effective today, the FAA will restrict helicopter traffic around Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. National Airport. It's just a typo. Today's decision will immediately help secure the airspace near Reagan Airport, ensuring the safety of airplane and helicopter traffic. This is part of the U.S. Department of Transportation's ongoing commitment to safeguarding our nation's skies and upholding the highest standards of air travel safety. We will continue to support the President's directive to achieve uncompromised aviation safety. The American people deserve full confidence in our aviation system, and today's action is a significant step towards restoring their trust. The restricted area includes Memorial Bridge to South Capitol Street Bridge, excluding the tidal basin, Haynes Point to Wilson Bridge, over the top of the airport. So this just came out right now. The official announcement. FAA reposted Secretary Duffy. FAA is restricting helicopter traffic around Ronald Reagan National Airport. And I guess in this area, it doesn't really give this. I'll see if there's. It's in this area. You can see there's Reagan Airport right here. Wilson Bridge, Haynes Point to Wilson Bridge. There's Wilson Bridge is. Hold on. Haynes Point to Wilson Bridge is this one. That's Route 4. Is it? I think this is the Route 4 Haynes Point to Wilson Bridge here, and then they said Memorial Bridge to South Capitol Street Bridge. That would be probably, this would be here. Memorial Bridge is here. South Capitol Street Bridge is here. And they say over the top of the airport. Anyways, that's the boundaries right there. It's interesting that's being done so quickly. Because the NTSB just yesterday said, they gave this press conference. They said, we're starting our investigation. They didn't even give any informational updates yesterday because they said they were just starting to look at the facts. So I'm interested in hearing what the NTSB has to say about this. My guess is that they might even be doing the media conference, the media briefing, to specifically talk about this. Richie MC says, what is being done at other airports? I've not heard about any activity at other airports. I don't know if there are recommendations the NTSB has yet for other airports. Certainly a good question. Will things be done at other airports? So that just was announced right now. Just came out. Thank you, Rusty Gold, who says, are we discussing the fact the helicopter was at 300 feet in a 200-foot zone? So the height of the helicopter is going to be one of the many things that the NTSB looks at. From what I understand from experts, from what I've heard them say in different reports I've read, the helicopter was higher than it was supposed to be there. We don't know why that's the case. Also, that height difference happened very shortly before the crash. So if you go to, for example, let me pull this up. I really need to bookmark this page. I need to bookmark the ADSB Exchange page where they and I'll post a link to this. But ADSB Exchange, ADSBExchange.com, which is a flight tracking site, posted a graphic with a map showing the plane height and position data with times. And what you can see there is that according to that data, if that data is correct, up until about 40 seconds before the crash, the helicopter was at 200 feet. There's the ADSB Exchange map. There is Reagan Airport right there. Hang on a moment here. The plane was coming into land on this runway here, coming in here. And there's the helicopter here coming from the north. And you can see that the helicopter is at 200 feet in this area. 200 feet, 200 feet, 200 feet, 200 feet. and it's at 200 feet at 147.23. And it looks from the map that the collision was about 148. So why in the roughly 40 seconds before the crash did the helicopter go higher than 200 feet when I believe it was supposed to be at 200 feet? That I don't know, and that's going to be one of the many things they look into. I'm going to post a link, and this is a great resource here from adsbexchange.com. So I'm going to post that link in the chat, and you can go to it and save it and bookmark it and look at it yourself. Thank you, by the way, to Donna Brandt. Let me just go back to the live shot there. Donna Brandt, Mike Rivers. Thank you, Mike. Yes, the thick blue or purple lines or whatever they were on that previous map are helicopter routes, as Mike mentions. These according to Juan Brown, who's an expert, who has his own channel, Blanco Lirio, these purple lines are helicopter routes here. See, it says Route 1 and Route 4. Thank you. Mike Rivers, PZ Papa Zulu, thanks for the gift memberships. Thank you, Debbie James, for the gift memberships. Maina Salon, thank you, who says, why were helicopters ever allowed there? I mean, so, look, I'm sure that they wouldn't have allowed helicopters there unless there were perceived benefits to doing so. Granted, it is a very congested area, and there have been worries about safety at that airport. However, I'm sure there are compelling reasons that ultimately it was decided to have helicopters be in that area. I don't think somebody just kind of forgot and then woke up yesterday and so said, oh my gosh, I can't believe we've allowed helicopters in this area. So, it's a good question. I don't know the relative costs and benefits of having, for example, I cannot specify what the benefits are of allowing helicopters to take that route. Maybe there's just a lot of military activity in that area, and if you don't allow them to be there, that's going to create certain problems. I don't know what those are, so I can't really intelligently answer that question, but I would be interested in knowing the analysis. And, you'd want to know, okay, if they do, it sounds like for at least temporarily, they're going to not allow helicopters to be in that area. So what is, that can lower the risk of an accident, I would think. But at the same time, I'd be interested in knowing, so what's the downside of that? There had to be some downside or they would have just done it before. So it's a fair question, but I can't tell you that. Thank you to Lonnie Schultz, who says, could this have been an intentional act? There's been no reporting yet that I've seen that of any kind of additional evidence besides on the face of it, like there was a crash, The helicopter seemed to go into the plane when the plane was doing what it should. I've not seen any additional reporting or heard about anything that would suggest it's intentional, but that is certainly, I would assume, an option that the NTSB would look at in their investigation. So what can I tell you? I am not an airplane expert, an aviation expert, so it is not for me to look at videos and reports of what happened and say, that looks intentional. But what I will tell you is I follow a number of aviation experts and watch videos and follow and read reports. I have not seen any aviation experts yet say something like, whoa, what that helicopter did is so crazy, I think it's intentional. That doesn't mean it wasn't intentional. A number of aviation experts I follow believe that the helicopter thought thought it was looking at the American Airlines plane, but was actually looking at the wrong plane and just never saw the American Airlines plane. So, but certainly the NTSB would consider intentional. I can be very confident of that, and that's something that will be looked into, I'm sure. But well, again, I'm not aware of any kind of expert argument so far that I've seen arguing it's intentional, which could obviously change, but I haven't seen it yet. Let's see here. Thank you to Aleppo Gambit, by the way, and Rusty Gold and Bonnie Stricker and Timages, Lowkey 1988, thank you, and Flacco. Hey, in 16 minutes, we are going to get an update from the NTSB. A number of these questions I see in the chat, I'm guessing might be asked at the end of the NTSB press conference when they take questions. So I assume they'll take questions, but I would not be surprised to hear questions about this, these kind of things at the NTSB briefing. They are the ones leading the investigation. And by the way, again, a short while ago, it was officially announced that for some sort of duration, I have no idea, it does not say in the announcement, helicopter traffic will be restricted around the Reagan Airport. Is this a temporary or permanent restriction? I don't know. What is the reason for the restriction specifically? Is it because, is the reason that the NTSB thinks it's unsafe? Or is the reason that the NTSB, maybe they have some questions. Maybe this is a precautionary measure. Maybe this could go away in 6 months if the NTSB determines that it's safe to do so. I don't know. We'll have to hear what the NTSB says about this new helicopter restriction around Reagan Airport. So I'm sure they will be discussing this, and this will be a significant part of what they're talking about and what they're asked about, because it just came out today and was just officially announced about probably 20 minutes ago. Let's see here. And that is a live shot of the recovery operation there in the Potomac River, right near the airport. Hang on a moment. By the way, thanks to Y Kikamukau for subscribing over there on Twitch. I do want to just check and make sure I'm not missing any updates here. Again, 14 minutes until this NTSB press conference, and they are leading the investigation. Hold on a second here. I might have another statement for you from, hold on. There's a new statement from the American Airlines CEO. CEO Robert Isom, if I'm pronouncing the name right, statement on the Trump administration action on aviation safety. This is the action taken today to, I don't know if it's temporary or permanent, to restrict helicopter activity around Reagan Airport. American Airlines CEO Robert Isom issued the following statement surrounding changes to flight activity at DCA, Reagan Airport. We are all hurting as we continue to grieve the loss of our passengers and team members. I thank President Trump for his leadership on aviation safety. I applaud him, Secretary Duffy, and the administration for taking quick and decisive action today to restrict helicopter activity around the airport. In the days ahead, we will work tirelessly with the administration and leaders in Congress to make our aviation system even safer, including by increasing investments in infrastructure, technology, and personnel. You know, I do think there's a question that could be asked. Maybe it will be asked today. So the question is, now I don't know why the helicopter traffic was restricted, because it's possible the helicopter traffic is restricted just as like a precaution during an investigation. Again, for all I know, the NTSB will say something like, well, we don't know what the cause of this crash was. And we figured just to take a precaution, why don't we, for the moment, temporarily restrict the airspace, the helicopter use in the area until we figure out what happened. Now, that's one way of doing it. That's one rationale. Another rationale would be to say, like, we've determined that it's just unsafe to have these helicopters here. I would be quite surprised if within like 24 hours, basically, of starting the investigation, if they have reached that conclusion. And a strange thing if that were the case. Like if they came out today and they said, oh, we have determined that having helicopters there is unsafe and we're never going to have them there again. Because then a question would be like, well, if it was such an obvious thing, why wasn't this done before? If it's so obvious that even before you've even gotten into the investigation, you've determined it's unsafe, why didn't you just do it before? So if I had to bet, I'm going to guess the rationale is going to be some kind of precautionary reason rather than them saying, we have determined that it is totally unsafe to have helicopters in this area forever, and that's it, it's permanent. Now, I might be wrong. I would just be very surprised if you have this big decision about helicopter traffic and it's permanent before they've even really gotten into the investigation. So we'll see. Maybe I'll be wrong about that. But my guess is that it might be something more of like, well, we're doing it for now, just as a precaution, but maybe it'll be open again to helicopters in some form when we finish our investigation or something like that. We'll have to see. Well, we'll find out in about 9 minutes. Okay. 9 minutes until the briefing. Hang on one moment. Oh, wait a second. Breaking news. Breaking news. You're not going to like this breaking news. The NTSB just announced 10 minutes before the press conference that they're changing it to 5:30. What? 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 This was, they announced it 10 minutes before the press conference. I got to post about this. That's kind of odd. So, you know, I don't know what to say about that, except that, like, I mean, a few minutes ago, the Secretary of Transportation posted that announcement, that official announcement about closing the space to helicopter traffic. So, like, did they not know he was going to announce that? It's just kind of strange. It's strange. I mean, maybe they're just busy. I mean, that's possible. It's just it's weird to have it so close, 10 minutes before the briefing. You know, stuff runs late, but I mean, they're usually on time, but also like just to announce it 10 minutes before the briefing is kind of odd. Yeah, Deb N says at least they announced it and didn't leave us hanging for that long. Now I got to update my headline. Well, I didn't know this, guys. I'm sorry, but I don't know that anyone publicly knew this. I mean, it was you can see it. They just posted it. So what can I do? What can I do? I can only go off of their announced time. DG said, did they just find something significant on the flight data recorders? Look, I have a hard time believing that. Even if they found something on the flight data recorders, I don't think they're necessarily going to rush out and run out and tell you right away. Like, you know, they're a very NTSB. They're into. I mean, they talk about this in their briefing yesterday. We covered it last night. We showed it last night on our stream last night. But you know, they're all about gathering the facts first, gathering all the evidence, careful about, you know, to gather everything and deliberate and analyze before coming to conclusions. So now there could be, like, I guess in theory, there could be some huge thing they found out about recently that we just don't know about. But it would have to be something like just really out of the ordinary for them to just delay a briefing 10 minutes before the briefing, I would think. I mean, there's some reason, but who knows? Look, I will say this. I would not be surprised if it's something to do with this announcement. This was just posted 28 minutes ago by Secretary of Transportation Duffy about this restriction of this new restriction on helicopters in the airspace of Reagan Airport. Maybe they were dealing with that this afternoon and they got backed up dealing with that. And by the way, it's interesting. This post from Secretary Duffy literally doesn't mention the NTSB. The NTSB is not in here. It says the FAA will do this. I mean, isn't the NTSB supposed to recommend this stuff? So was the NTSB in on this decision? I don't even know. But am I right in that the NTSB isn't even mentioned in here? I don't see it. But no, see, no, yeah, somebody said the NTSB investigates. The NTSB, when they do investigations, they make recommendations. So if you watch, for example, the NTSB's, that's an important part of their job, is to make recommendations based on their investigations. So if you watch the press conference they did yesterday, what they say is, like, something they say is, you know, this could take a while. We're going to assemble all the evidence and everything. But what they say is, we will not hesitate if we, during our investigation, uncover something that's going to impact safety that we think needs to be changed. We will not hesitate to just immediately come out and recommend that. So it's interesting to me that given that they are a body which is leading the investigation, and they say that they might make recommendations, and if there's something that needs to be changed, they will recommend it, that in this announcement, this official announcement reposted by the FAA and posted by the Secretary of Treasury, literally does not mention the NTSB. Now, maybe the NTSB was in on it, and it's just like, it was just an oversight or something. So, but when I see an announcement like this on a major policy change that doesn't mention the NTSB, and then I see the NTSB 10 minutes before the briefing say, oh, actually our briefing has been delayed by an hour and a half. I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of tug of war or disagreement or something going on between the NTSB and other organizations. I don't know. It could just be that they got behind in their day and they just weren't ready to do the briefing. I don't know. But it is interesting to that we have a change made, a major change made as a response to the accident, and there's literally no mention in the only official announcement I've seen about it of the NTSB. Now, I will say this. Another thing could be is maybe the NTSB recommended this, but they didn't want it announced until they announced it. Maybe I thought what was going to happen is that, because look, it had been reported today. Reuters had said an FAA official, but this wasn't an official announcement. Reuters had said an FAA official told Reuters that the FAA was barring most helicopters from parts of 2 routes near the airport and only allowing police and medical helicopters in the area between the airport and nearby bridges. It was not clear how long those restrictions would last. So that was not official. The first official announcement I saw was this, and it literally doesn't mention the NTSB. So I do wonder if the fact that this announcement, this official announcement, came out of this new policy before the NTSB did their briefing today, and it didn't mention the NTSB, is the NTSB like, what are you doing? We were going to announce this. We're the ones who are responsible for making recommendations. Why are you announcing this? I don't know. I might be totally wrong. But that's what it kind of feels like maybe to me. So I don't know. It's an interesting situation. You know. So what can I say? I'm just throwing out, it just feels strange to me that they're delaying their press briefing 10 minutes before the press briefing. Now, Peggy says, I don't think this policy came from NTSB at all. Look, that's certainly a question of, did the NTSB recommend this? And if they didn't, then you could have some real, political or, bureaucratic tug of war issues here, which could be the case. I don't know. But, I got to say, I would think, given that the NTSB, I mean, again, go watch the press conference from last night. They said, we will make recommendations on safety for changes if we feel they're necessary. That's what they do. So it's just interesting in and of itself that this announcement was made without any mention of the NTSB, because you would think Because you look at this and you're like, I mean, I looked at it and I was like, okay, wait, I know the NTSB is supposed to recommend changes, but I don't see them here. So did they recommend this? Also, as I said before, the NTSB did not have to have a press briefing today. They literally just had one yesterday. And if you go watch the press briefing from yesterday, it doesn't sound, they say nothing about having daily briefings. They seem to be tamping down expectations of how fast, things are going to come out. They talked about having an initial report within 30 days, a preliminary report. So when I saw today that they announced that they were having a briefing today, I was like, oh, there must be something to announce, because they wouldn't just have a briefing just to do it. They just had one. And then when I heard about this, these reports of U.S. restricting helicopter flights around the airport, I was like, well, they must be announcing this. Go back and watch the start of this broadcast. I said, I'm guessing the press briefing is to announce this change. But then a half hour before the press briefing, where I think they're going to announce the change, Secretary Duffy posts that the change has been made, and he says it's with the support of the President and the Secretary of Defense, and the FAA is doing it, and literally nowhere in the announcement is the word NTSB. So I know this might sound like, oh, this is agency infighting and stuff, but this stuff can happen. Anyway, so it's very interesting what's going on with the delayed briefing and this announcement. And but who knows? It's also possible that everybody's on the same page and they delayed their briefing because they ran late today. So we'll see. But it's very interesting. Let me see if I'm going to take some more comments in a second. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any more updates here. Let me just see if I have any other reporting for you. Oh, is Trump live? I think he might be live talking about executive orders or something. I'm sorry, there's like a lot going on. We're here to cover this, but let me see if I can still get some of that for you. Or he might have just been live. Yeah, signing executive orders. Again, this was supposed to start now. It's 4:06 p.m. So if this was on time, we would be watching the briefing right now. So I wasn't really focused on that. They didn't carry it on, so I can say this. They did not carry the signing of executive orders on the White House YouTube page. Did they have it on Reuters? Oh no, Reuters didn't have it either. Reuters was going to have a broadcast of it, and then it said canceled. Hey guys, I have an update here from Josh Wingrove. Josh Wingrove reports he is with Bloomberg. Josh Wingrove reports, in addition to Canada, Mexico, and China tariffs tomorrow, Trump says in Oval Office he will soon impose sectoral tariffs on semiconductor chips. He met NVIDIA CEO today, steel and aluminum. He also says he'll be tariffing oil and gas without elaborating. So it sounds like that could happen tomorrow. Again, this was just posted by Josh Wingrove of Bloomberg. He says, in addition to Canada, Mexico, and China tariffs tomorrow, Trump says in Oval Office he'll soon also impose sectoral tariffs on semiconductor chips, steel, and aluminum. He also says he'll be tariffing oil and gas without elaborating. Oh, also, I have another update for you. Steve Holland with Reuters reports that President Trump told the pool in the Oval Office about 10 minutes ago that nothing can be done at this point by China, Mexico, and Canada to head off tariffs he will impose tomorrow. Okay? So I'm just letting you know that. We will cover the tariffs tomorrow if there are tariffs tomorrow. So a lot of news going on here. This briefing got moved, in case you didn't see it, at the last minute, 10 minutes before the briefing, the NTSB press briefing got moved till 5:30. Oh, I'm also seeing some quote from Trump about the Panama Canal. Well, I'm not seeing it. I haven't seen confirmed reports about that. I'll have to see if any of the reporters who were with him. I guess he's, where is it? It's weird. It's odd. He might even still be live in the White House, but is Fox showing it? But normally the outlets that would show it that I have here are not even showing it. So I don't even know if there's any live camera in there. I'll turn it on Fox News. Fox News is in a commercial right now. They're not showing it. So I think he's in the Oval Office speaking to reporters, but it's not televised. Yes, so I'm seeing reports come out of the Oval Office right now from different reporters who are there. Josh Wingrove of Bloomberg says that President Trump, still speaking about tariffs in the Oval Office, says tariffs don't cause inflation, they cause success. So my understanding is Trump is in the Oval Office now still talking to reporters, but I have not seen this televised anywhere. And again, I have literally a Fox News on right here. It's not on Reuters. It's not on the White House live page on YouTube. It is not on AP, so I think it's just not being live broadcast anywhere. Oh, somebody had something of it? Well, anyways, none of the news agencies is carrying it, which is odd. Yeah, by the way, here is a live shot of the recovery effort. Thank you, by the way, to Lisa Mitchell and KB Axel N. KB Axel N says the delay may have been because they realized the helicopter deliberately created this. I would be shocked. They would have to have found, for the NTSB to have concluded what happened already, they would have to have, in some completely unanticipated way, found some totally unanticipated cut and dried piece of evidence, like a cell phone video where the helicopter pilot is explaining what they're doing or something like this. You know what I'm saying? Otherwise, they're not going to come out the first day of the investigation and announce what happened. But I don't know what has happened. But at the same time, if you're looking for a reason for the delay, if you're looking for a reason that they're having the news conference today, one reason, and to me, the only big reason that we know about at this point, is that there's been this big change announced by the Secretary of Transportation that helicopter traffic is being restricted around Reagan Airport. But the announcement in no way mentions the NTSB. And as I understand it, and as the NTSB said in their as I understand it, the recommendations based on the investigation are supposed to come from the NTSB. And I can tell you that the NTSB, during their press conference yesterday, talked about that they will make recommendations based on their investigation if they feel that recommendations are warranted. So I am very interested in knowing, did the NTSB play a role in this? If they did, if not, why not? If they did, why are they not mentioned in the official announcement about it? And why did this announcement come out half hour before the press conference in which I think the NTSB was going to announce it? And did the fact that this came out a half an hour before the press conference have anything to do with 20 minutes after this announcement came out, 10 minutes before the press conference, all of a sudden the NTSB said our press conference has been delayed by 90 minutes? Wild Daisy said they said don't expect any conclusions for at least 12 to 18 months. I can't remember saying them saying exactly that, but they might have said that. Certainly, these kind of investigations can take a long time. They did say that if during the investigation they determine that there's some sort of change that should be made for safety reasons, they will not wait until the end of the investigation. It does seem kind of fast for them to have all of a sudden concluded that the airspace should be closed, but maybe that's just part of the investigation. Maybe they were just like, we want to close it during the investigation. But again, so I don't know. I have to imagine this was going to be a big part of what they were going to talk about. And I mean, you would think they would, but I don't know. Maybe there's some whole other thing that they're going to talk about that we don't even know about. So we'll have to see. Give me a moment here. DGR viewer thinks NTSB had nothing to do with closing the airspace. Let me just say this. My intuition is if this decision was somehow made without the NTSB's input, I don't know for sure. My impression is that would be an enormous deal. And my impression is that the NTSB would be furious about it. But I don't know that that's the case. I have no reporting that says that the NTSB was not involved in this. I don't know. If the NTSB was not involved, it would be very strange. Given that they publicly said in the press conference they're going to make recommendations based on their investigation. Why would they care? Because they're in charge of the investigation. And as I understand it, they are the ones who are supposed to be making the safety recommendations based on the investigation. So if they feel that that's what they're supposed, and I think they would argue that any kind of changes need to be based on the most solid evidence and reasoning. And they would argue that, I would think, since we're conducting the investigation and we're the experts on these kind of investigations, and we make recommendations based on the investigations, then those changes should be based on our recommendations. So if one day into the investigation, there's some huge change made without their input, that would be a big deal to them. I don't know that it was made without their input. I'm just saying. It would be a huge story. Believe me, I have no idea if this is the case. It very well might not be. If it turns out that the NTSB was not in on this, that would be an enormous story. But I don't see any reporting it that that's the case. But believe me, it'll be a big story. And believe me, if the NTSB was not in on this, it kind of makes them look powerless if they weren't in on it, because they're sitting here telling the world yesterday, we'll make safety recommendations based on what we see. Well, if the next day there's some huge change and they weren't in on it, then it's like, well, who's really in charge here above these things? And why do your recommendations matter? So that would be huge. We'll see. Tell me I'm wrong. If the press conference happens and they say, we just ran late and everything seems fine and we were totally in on this decision, you can say, Steve, yeah, the stuff you said might have been the case. Seems like it's not the case. And I'll say, yeah, I was wrong. We'll have to see. I'll be looking for signs of, I'll be looking at the press conference to see what we can glean about how they feel about the decision and how much they were in on it. We have 70 minutes. Until the press conference. A little more update on the Trump tariffs. Nandita Bose says Trump said in the Oval Office a short while ago, she's with Reuters, that Trump said he will tariff chips, oil, I think she means computer chips, oil, gas, aluminum, steel, and copper. Oil and gas tariffs will be done by February 18th. He said he was not concerned about the reaction of financial markets to his plans to impose tariffs. I believe it is on China, Mexico, and Canada tomorrow. Hey, look, so while we're waiting for the NTSB, I have an update here. White House says Trump tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China will come Saturday. No word on exemptions. President Trump will put in place 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico and 10% tariffs on goods from China effective tomorrow, the White House said. But it provided no word on whether there would be any exemptions to the measures that could result in swift price increases for U.S. consumers. Oh, well, this is not based on what he said in the Oval Office. So White House Press Secretary Karen Leavitt said starting tomorrow, those tariffs will be in place. I didn't even see the press briefing. My schedule's all messed up from our night coverage. But I believe we saw reporting the last few minutes that Trump said that these tariffs are coming tomorrow in the Oval Office in like the last few minutes. Hang on a moment, everyone. Just there's a bunch of different news coming out now. I'm trying to just get you updates on various things. Maybe I can get you. Let me see if I can get you any more on this airspace closure. Just give me a moment here. Oh, there's an announcement here from Jerry Moran. Senator Jerry Moran. Kansas senator. He says the FAA has indefinitely shut down all low-altitude helicopter flights near the Reagan Airport. The FAA was right to take this action, and I expect these restrictions to be in effect until investigations are complete. So he says, Senator Moran says, until investigations are complete. Okay. All right, so let's just go over where we're at. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything new. So I kind of keep checking for updates here. Mark C. says, do we expect the Army to have a press conference about their helicopter involved in this accident? So now, will anyone from the military, including the Secretary of Defense, take questions about it? That I don't know. Pete Hegseth posted a video Thursday morning about it. He's the Secretary of Defense. I'm not aware that anyone from the military has been has taken questions on this yet. So, I mean, Secretary of Defense was at President Trump's press briefing the day after the crash, but he didn't, I don't believe, people didn't really ask him questions and he didn't answer any questions. So, yeah, I don't know if we're going to have any kind of press conference with the military. It's a fair question. I don't know. Carlos Diaz says, have they announced the name of the third soldier on the helicopter? The one who was piloting it? Well, there were 3 soldiers on the helicopter, and one of them is not being, the name of one of them is not being announced because the person's family doesn't want them to announce the name. So I'll show you something about that. Hang on a moment here. Look, this is from AP. The Army on Friday identified 2 of the 3 soldiers on the helicopter, Staff Sergeant Ryan O'Hara and Chief Warrant Officer Andrew Lloyd Eves. The third soldier's name was not being released at the family's request. No, the Joe Ellis thing is false. The Joe Ellis thing is false. That's just a surprise, surprise. Another surprise, surprise. The internet has jumped on something that turns out to be false. Cheyenne Sardarizadeh of BBC. Viral post that claimed the pilot of the Black Hawk helicopter involved in the crash in Washington was a transgender woman named Joe Ellis who deliberately caused the incident are false and baseless. Joe Ellis has posted on Facebook to confirm she is alive and not the pilot. If she were on that aircraft, she would not be posting on Facebook. But we don't know the name of the third pilot, or I don't know who was doing what on the aircraft. By the way, I think NPR had reported, I think, that the third pilot was a female, or the third soldier was a female. Let me check that out. Yes. NPR says the third crew member on the helicopter was a female pilot with 500 hours of flying experience, according to a U.S. official who was not authorized to speak publicly about the investigation. The Army is withholding the pilot's name at the request of her family. Okay, I just want to post a link to that. So again, NPR says it is a female pilot with 500 hours of flying experience. Is 500 a lot? That I am not in a position to answer. There was reporting yesterday, I believe, that one pilot had 1,000 and one pilot had one person on board had 1,000 and one had 500. I don't know if the 500 was about her or not. And I don't have the background to give you a good sense to give you perspective on that. I also don't know who was doing what on the helicopter. Another quick little news item as we wait for the press briefing in an hour. This came out today too. B&O News passed this along. I I believe I believe they got this announcement from the Justice Department. John Rogers, a former senior advisor to the Federal Reserve, has been arrested for giving trade secrets to China. And you can see in the, looks like a press release B&O posted, according to the indictment, Rogers, a U.S. citizen, worked as a senior advisor in the Division of International Finance of the Federal Reserve Bank from 2010 until 2021. He allegedly shared confidential information with his Chinese co-conspirators. All right, give me a moment here. All kinds of news coming out. Bill Kennedy thinks the NTSB presser was bumped because Trump is holding court. You know, it's an interesting... Oh, so by the way, Fox News is playing a video of Trump in the White House right now. It's not a live video, it's a recorded video. It is an interesting question. It's possible that Bill Kennedy is right and that the NTSB press conference was bumped because Trump was speaking around 4 p.m. I mean, would they have to bump it till 5:30 p.m.? I don't know. So it's possible. It seems weird to do it 10 minutes before the briefing. Because they only delayed it 10 minutes before the briefing. That was our viewer, by the way. Our viewer wrote, Bill Kennedy is our viewer. Our viewer, Bill Kennedy, thinks that that's why it was bumped. I have no idea. In case you missed it, also, a couple of videos came out, new videos, overnight of the crash, which I don't have the rights to show. Do I have those anywhere, though? Hold on a second here. Give me a second here. I don't believe I have them in a form I can show them to you myself, but I will post a link to them in the chat. Let me post a link to them in the chat. And then you can watch them both if you haven't seen them. B&O News posted them, and I will post a link in the chat for you. I think CNN originally broadcast them. All right, I just posted that link of the two videos. Yeah, they're quite striking, the videos. I mean, you really do see that helicopter coming in, and you see the explosion and the aircraft falling down to the water. It's terrible. No, I'm literally looking at Fox, and Fox says that the Trump video that they're showing is taped. All right, again, in case you haven't heard, at around 3:30 p.m., a half hour before the original briefing time, the Secretary of Transportation announced, with the support of the President and in consultation with the Defense Secretary, effective today, the FAA will restrict helicopter traffic around Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Again, I find it interesting that the NTSB is literally not mentioned. It doesn't say based on a recommendation by the NTSB. It doesn't even say in consultation with the NTSB. It just doesn't mention them. Today's decision will immediately help secure the airspace near Reagan Airport, ensuring the safety of airplane and helicopter traffic. This is part of the U.S. Department of Transportation's ongoing commitment to safeguarding our nation's skies and upholding the highest standards of air travel safety. We will continue to support the President's directive to achieve uncompromised aviation safety. The American people deserve full confidence in our aviation system, and today's action is a significant step towards restoring that trust. There is the restricted area. No, Trump is not speaking live right now. He spoke a short while ago. The video you are watching of him would be recorded. People are saying it's not the NTSB's call. The NTSB specifically said in their press conference yesterday, they can and will, if necessary, make recommendations based on the investigation. Yes, it is part of what the NTSB does to make recommendations based on their investigation. And I'm interested if it's not. I mean, this would seem to be a change that's been made in response to what happened. So if the NTSB isn't the only one recommending changes, that's interesting to me, because what happens if the NTSB has one set of recommendations and someone else has a different set? And also, what if the NTSB is basing their recommendations on the investigation and they haven't recommended this yet? Then what information is this being based on? Did they do their own investigation? And remember, the NTSB specifically said yesterday that they would not hesitate. They would not hesitate at any point, no matter what stage of the investigation it is. If they think a change based on safety is warranted, they will recommend it. That's what they said. You can see here on the NTSB website, beyond the investigation, NTSB investigations do not end at the determination of a probable cause. In many cases, investigations reveal important safety issues that we address with safety recommendations. These recommendations can be directed to regulatory agencies, manufacturers, state and local jurisdictions, companies, and other organizations involved in the specific transportation area. Once recommendations are issued, NTSB staff stay in communication with the recommendation recipients to track the progress of adoption, highlight and advocate for important safety issues identified through our investigations. They have a whole page. Safety recommendations. The NTSB issues safety recommendations to address specific safety concerns uncovered during investigations and to specify actions to help prevent similar accidents from occurring in the future. Safety recommendations are our most important product. because they alert government, industry, and the public to the critical changes that are needed to prevent transportation accidents and crashes and reduce injuries and save lives. We issue recommendations to the organizations best able to take corrective action, such as the Department of Transportation and federal and state agencies. We issue recommendations at any point during the investigation. We monitor the progress of action. So they're literally saying that their most important thing they do is issue recommendations. And they issue them to the Department of Transportation. Well, the Department of Transportation just came out and said, we made a change, and in no way did they mention that they consulted. They didn't even say they consulted with the NTSB. So my guess is that the NTSB is like, what's going on? I'm not saying that legally, I don't believe there's any law that the Department of Transportation has to wait on this, has to get everything, get a change clear with the NTSB. But when I read this, based on what I know, and when I read this, well, this sounds like that when there's an this sounds like when there's an accident and the NTSB is controlling the investigation, that recommendations will go through them. That this makes it sound like that they are the ones who are looked to make safety recommendations. But they specifically say, we issue recommendations to the organizations best able to take corrective action, such as the Department of Transportation. Well, guess what? The Department of Transportation just made a big change, and they consulted everybody but you. It looks like. Anyways, I bet they're mad about it. By the way, in case you didn't see it, Trump has multiple reporters say Trump said in the Oval Office a short while ago, there is nothing that Mexico, Canada, and China can do to avoid the tariffs he is going to put on them tomorrow. The press conference from the NTSB is in 44 minutes. Hey, thanks, by the way, to Bebop and Rocksteady, who says, I'm glad they are taking action. Find a problem, fix it. Thank you, Charlie. Charlie says, I think you are discounting how long it takes NTSB to issue recommendations. They have a long process. FAA controls airspace and can make immediate changes ahead of recommendations. Again, I'll just point to the fact that the NTSB said, and they said it last night during their press conference, they will not hesitate to, if they feel that there's something that needs to be changed based on their investigation, they are not going to wait. They will immediately say so. So yes, their investigations take a while, but they are on record as saying if they determine that a change is needed, they will say it. So now maybe the Department of Transportation, I haven't heard that they've given such a recommendation yet. Maybe they did, but maybe the Department of Transportation thought it was necessary. And maybe they disagreed, but if you just watch the press conference, they say they will not wait. Hang on a moment here. Thank you again, Charlie and Bebop and Rocksteady. I appreciate it. Captain Jerry Donnelly, thank you. Michael Hordorwich, thank you. I appreciate it. And Linda, Michael's wife, thank you. Alice Wonderland, our new member. Dean R., thank you. Miranda Stevens. Lisa Mitchell, thank you. KB Axel N. Kender. Kender says, fixing things so it doesn't happen again is a good idea. Lonnie Schultz, thank you. Lisa Mitchell. Lonnie, I believe so in the press conference today, there was a DC authorities press conference. Lonnie mentioned, Lonnie said they are probably bringing in barges with cranes to lift debris out of the water, restricting airspace travel. So I do know that in the briefing today, the DC briefing, they said that I think the two shorter runways at the airport are not being used right now because that could interfere with the recovery operations going on. The airport is open, but it's at a reduced capacity right now, Reagan Airport. I didn't see the whole thing, but I can maybe find something about it, about what they said about where the recovery option is at. Yeah, right here. Look, this is from AP. 2 of the 3 main runways at the airport remain closed because of the crash and recovery effort. 100 flights were canceled today. The runways were closed to prevent planes from flying over the crash site while taking off or landing. They will likely remain closed for about a week, but that will be reassessed as the recovery effort continues. And I think they said something about today about soon starting to lift the aircraft out of the water. I thought they said maybe like tomorrow or something, but I got to look that up. I can't remember. So don't hold me to that. Kevin Graham says, I think they said that. Yes. Washington's Channel 4 News, Siobhan Kennedy says that salvage ops begin tomorrow. Thanks, Susie Irish, for your support, by the way. Also, I want to shout out our moderators. Thank you, by the way, Fred Witherow, too. Thank you, Fred Witherow. I want to shout out our moderators, too. And also, thanks to Airtight Ski Pole for your support on Twitch. Dr. Trilogy, thank you. Malice Bixie on Twitch, thank you. Simp Nasty Scrimp, thanks on Twitch. I'm behind on Twitch, thanks. I'm sorry. Ascertainment and Douthis. Thank you for your support on Twitch. And thanks to all of our moderators for being here. We have Janet B., Ruth Krafasi, Beth Ski. Linda Belkalari, Misha on X. Big Ball of Yarn, Idaho Star. I got that fire and Surly Dev over there on Twitch and on Facebook. Charlotte Webb is there. Margaret Riley. Thanks to all of our moderators. We have 37 minutes. What is this? Breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. Not about this. Jennifer Jacobs of CBS News reports Trump officials are putting a pause on most federal government websites. They are expected to go dark in 7 minutes at 5 p.m. Most federal government websites are going dark in 7 minutes, according to CBS News. That is according to CBS News. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that as well. Also, the Washington Post reports that Trump administration officials are working to identify potentially hundreds of FBI agents for termination who worked on investigations targeting the president and his supporters. The headline is FBI considering mass purge of agents involved in Trump investigations. Leaders appointed by the Trump administration are identifying potentially hundreds of FBI agents for possible termination. Peter Booth says, will the NTSB site go dark at 5 p.m.? I hope not. I want to repeat, Jennifer Jacobs of CBS News reports Trump officials are putting a pause on most federal government websites. They are expected to go dark at 5 p.m. Remind me in like 2 minutes, I got to start looking at some federal government websites. Like, what would that be? Like Social Security website and IRS and Department of Defense? Okay, the Social Security Administration website is still up. I do not have details on this. This was just reported. One of our viewers said, does that mean the X is going down? Medicaid.gov is still up. All right, so we'll be watching this. What about the FAA website? Good question. What about National Weather Service? Good question. Thank you, Captain Jerry Donnelly, who says it should be pretty easy to find out who the female pilot is if they are missing. You know, look, Jerry, I will say that, so remember, there were three soldiers on board the helicopter. The government has identified 2 of them. The third one is not being identified at the request of that soldier's family. NPR says it is a female pilot. I don't know who was doing what on the plane, if they were all flying it or what. Reportedly, it was a training mission, and there was at least one person flying and one person who was like supervising the person flying, who could also fly. Not the helicopter, I mean, not the plane, who could also fly. But maybe all 3 of them are technically pilots. So, but I was thinking that it's gonna come out who it was, right? Because that person sadly is now gone. So eventually, it seems like the identity of that person will end up being revealed because someone who knows the person will post about it or talk to the press about it or something. So I do think that, I think Jerry is getting at that. I don't think it will stay a secret forever who that person is. Again, the internet rumor that it was a trans female named Joe Ellis is false. That is false. Joe Ellis actually posted a proof of life video to show that it was not Joe Ellis. JB says, I'm sure the family doesn't want to be swamped with press. I don't know the family's exact motivations, but Dan Lamoth says, where is it here? The Washington Post has something about the soldiers too, and it says the name of the third soldier was on the helicopter was withheld. Hold on. I'm trying to find some more details here about the third person. So Dan Lamoth of the Washington Post, is it, says the third soldier was described as a young captain yesterday by the Secretary of Defense, like Eves, who was one of the soldiers on the helicopter. She served as a pilot. Eves was serving as an instructor pilot as his colleague underwent an annual proficiency test. So is the third person the one that was undergoing the proficiency test? I'm not clear. Yes, also, again, the Dan Lamoth from Washington Post says the Army took the rare step of withholding the third soldier's identity at the request of her family. By the way, just worth mentioning too, when you listen to the air traffic audio, it is a male voice that is responding to the air traffic control. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Are any websites down? Social Security is still working. Medicaid.gov is still working. So again, CBS News' Jennifer Jacobs had reported that Trump officials are putting a pause on most federal government websites. They're expected to go dark at 5 p.m., Trump officials told me. So are any government websites, some of our viewers are saying USGS is still up, IRS is up. I am not aware that any of them are down yet. By the way, Jennifer Jacobs is pretty networked in. I mean, she covered the White House for years, and she covered the White House under Trump. So she knows, I assume, a lot of people in the Trump administration. We're still waiting for this NTSB briefing in 29 minutes. And I know we're kind of jumping around a bit today, but I'm sorry that we're not just focusing on the plane crash, but I do think there are other important updates happening. So I wanted to keep you in the loop about these other things going on. This is a different story than some viewers are messaging me about a different story. There's another story today about certain pages on websites disappearing. I'll see if I can find something about that, but that's different than entire websites just going down. Yeah, so like this story here from Reuters, U.S. health agencies scrubbing websites to remove, quote, gender ideology. And Reuters says officials at the CDC and other federal health agencies are scrubbing or taking down web pages, forms, and programs that reflect gender ideology extremism on Friday to conform with an executive order that recognizes only two sexes, male and female. CDC web pages that appear to have been removed include statistics on HIV among transgender people and data on health disparities among gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender youth. But that's a different story than this report that entire websites are going to go down. I have not seen any reports, and none of our viewers is reporting yet in the chat that any of the government websites are down yet. It is 5:04. IRS site is still up. DNR says Department of Veterans Affairs is still up. Well, we'll see. Maybe the CBS report will turn out to be wrong. Liberta Lad says watching safely from Canada. Hey, thanks so much to Lynn Downey. I really appreciate it, Lynn. Thank you. Also, Boomer Wow. Boomer Wow says all the Know Your Rights pages are gone. I don't know if Boomer Wow is joking or not. Maybe not. Yeah, thank you, Jeffrey Freeman, for your support. One of our viewers pointed out that we're now seeing a crane on the screen. Remember, the salvage operations are supposed to begin tomorrow. Give me one moment here. Just give me one. I need one moment, guys. We're getting closer to the NTSB briefing. Give me one moment. Thank you. I need about 30 seconds here. Okay. All right. Okay, that's taken care of. 23 minutes until the press briefing, which was originally supposed to be at 4 p.m. And 10 minutes beforehand, it got delayed till 5:30 p.m. We might do a stream. So I think what I might do tonight, because there's the tariffs is a big story. So what we might do tonight is after this stream, I might take a little break and then maybe we'll do like a tariffs stream tonight, because Trump is saying he's going to impose tariffs tomorrow on China, Canada, and Mexico. That's a huge deal. So we might do like a different stream tonight about that. And I have yet to hear of any federal government websites that aren't working. Jennifer Jacobs, who's a pretty networked in reporter for CBS News, had said that Trump officials are putting a pause on most federal government websites. They are expected to go dark at 5 p.m. Trump officials told me. Trump officials told her this, but we have not seen any that I've heard go down. All right. Now, let's go back and talk about this. Let's talk about the airport restrictions. The new airport helicopter restrictions. Sorry, there's been so many developments that I keep jumping around from thing to thing to thing. So here is, for example, from Associated Press, they say helicopters restricted near airport with some exceptions. The area over the Potomac River and near Reagan Airport is now off limits to most helicopters to ensure safety in the aftermath of the crash, the FAA said. Exceptions include aircraft for medical emergencies, active law enforcement, and air defense. Marine One, the presidential helicopter, is also exempt. The restrictions are expected to continue until at least the NTSB finishes its preliminary report, expected within 30 days. Oh, that's interesting. The restrictions are expected to continue at least until the National Transportation Safety Board finishes its preliminary report, expected within 30 days. That preliminary report might not have a cause in it. And then we have this. U.S. restricts helicopter flights after Washington crash. Reuters says U.S. authorities have restricted helicopter flights near Reagan Airport after a mid-air collision killed 67 people between a jet and a helicopter. The FAA sharply restricted helicopter flights to reduce the risk of another collision. Secretary of Transportation Duffy said, I'll show you that again. The FAA is barring most helicopters from parts of 2 routes near the airport and only allowing police and medical helicopters, air defense, and presidential air transport in the area between the airport and nearby bridges. The restrictions will last at least until the NTSB releases a preliminary report until the fatal collision, which typically takes 30 days. At that point, they will be reviewed, Duffy said. Did he release another statement about this? By the way, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder from the plane have been found. The NTSB says they are aiming to recover the helicopter's black box, which captures flight data and voices in the cockpit. I think they said they were trying to do that today. Here, look, press release. U.S. Transportation Secretary, again, it's very strange to me that this doesn't mention the NTSB. It doesn't mention the NTSB was in on this decision. U.S. Transportation Secretary announces new FAA action to ensure safety in airspace. With the support of President Trump and in consultation with the Secretary of Defense, again, doesn't mention the NTSB. Effective today, the FAA will restrict helicopter traffic in this area around the airport. There's the airport right there. The restriction exempts helicopters entering this airspace. The restriction does not apply to helicopters entering the airspace for life-saving medical support, active law enforcement, active air defense, or presidential transport helicopter missions. Any helicopter operations outside these exemptions will be prohibited. These restrictions will remain in place until the NTSB completes its preliminary investigation of the air carrier incident, at which point it will be reviewed based on NTSB's report. See, that's interesting. These restrictions are going to stay in place for 30 days, the NTSB's initial report is supposed to be within 30 days. But they say at that point, they will decide whether to keep it based on the NTSB report. But it doesn't say that the NTSB was consulted about this. Maybe they were. It's weird that they're not mentioned. Okay. And the Transportation Secretary Duffy said, today's decision will immediately help secure the airspace near Reagan Airport, ensuring the safety of airplane and helicopter traffic. This is part of the U.S. Department of Transportation's ongoing commitment to safeguarding our nation's skies and upholding the highest standards of air travel safety. We will continue to support President Trump's directive to achieve uncompromised aviation safety. The American people deserve full confidence in our aviation system, and today's action is a significant step towards restoring that trust. It is 5:16 p.m., guys. Briefing in 14 minutes. 14 minutes. King Nothing feels that it is prudent to restrict the helicopter traffic. Robbie Gramer from Politico reports that the State Department has stripped language on LGBTQ and replaced it with LGB. See if I can find that. Yes, they have. They have done this. Look. So if you Google it, you get LG Department of State, LGBTQI plus travel information, right? And just so you know, it's this would be lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, and intersex, I believe, is the last one. I and plus. But watch what happens when I click on this. LGB. So according to a Politico reporter, they took out the other letters. That's from, and again, it certainly looks like that because if you Google the page, it had the other letters in the search result. That's from Robbie Gramer from Politico pointed that out. Is FAA down? FAA.gov is down. FAA.gov is down. FATUX Network figured this out. Hey guys, the FAA website is not working. Oh no, it is working. It is working. What's going on? I was able to go there. I was just able to go. If you type in FAA.gov, it doesn't work. That says FAA.gov, but if I go to HTWWW, it seems to work. That's weird. So why does it do that? Oh no, it's not down. It is not down. I would have thought if you put in, maybe there's something weird about clicking on a link that just says FAA.gov, but it's there. It is there. Sorry. If there's a link that just says FAA.gov, will that not work normally? No, if you type in www.faa.gov, it works. It does work. Hey, hold on a second. Hang on a moment. Census.gov says this. FATUX Network mentioned census.gov. Census.gov. Click. Is that what census.gov normally looks like? Census.gov? Census.gov? My guess is that's not what it normally looks like. So that appears to be down. Remember, the reason I'm talking about these websites is because Jennifer Jacobs of CBS News reported a short while ago that Trump officials are putting a pause on most federal government websites. They are expected to go dark at 5 p.m., Trump officials told me. So we've been checking some of these websites to see if they're going down. It does appear that census.gov is not working. Now, maybe there's some other reason for that. FAA.gov is working. Are there any other sites that are not working? IRS is working. Oh, update. We have an update. Jennifer Jacobs just posted. Websites were still functioning Friday evening. Now, asked in the Oval Office if federal websites would be shut down to remove DEI-related content, Trump told reporters, if they want to scrub the websites, that's okay with me. Politico reported earlier that Agriculture Department employees were ordered to delete landing pages on climate change across agency websites, according to an internal email. Reuters reported the CDC and other federal health agencies were scrubbing or taking down web pages, forums, and programs that, quote, reflect ideology extremism. We'll see if websites stop working. One of our viewers mentioned USPS. No, USPS is working. I just went to USPS. It's working. Uh, 7 minutes until the press briefing. Oh, do I have video of it yet? No. 7 minutes until the press briefing. We're going to bring you that live coverage of the NTSB press briefing. Sorry, there's been so much going on. Oh, hold on a second. Look what I have for you. Look what I have for you guys. Look what I have for you right here. Look what I have for you. Oopsie, that's not what I have for you. There it is. There it is. Media briefing 2. By the way, that's not a live shot. That's like a graphic. It's like a pit photo. But the stream is going live in 5 minutes. Tim M says the census site is working again, maybe getting hammered with people testing the site. Oh, maybe it was. No, when I go to census.gov, I click on the link from Google. It doesn't work for me. But I'm not aware of anything else not working. Again, I do apologize if we've been jumping around tonight because there's been other developments. So I wanted to bring you those as well as the stuff about the plane crash. Thank you to Chemistry Queen, our new member, Kerry Poteet. Yeah, if you type in FAA.gov, I think it doesn't work, but www.faa.gov works. Even I just typed FAA.gov in my browser and it worked. Thank you, Captain Jerry Donnelly, for your support. Also, Lynn Downey and Boomer Wow. Again, this briefing is supposed to start in about 3 minutes. Will it start on time? And big news tomorrow. Apparently, Trump tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico start tomorrow. He's going to implement them tomorrow, apparently. Thank you, Ali C, for your support. Lurker Smurf, they have not changed the time again. It is posted on their YouTube page. They have not announced a change in the time. Bird Beast thinks they're going to push it back again. Well, that would be really late. I don't think they are because, I mean, it's now 2 minutes before, but you never know. Yes, we're going to play it live. We have it live coming up. Now, I will say Reuters is carrying it, but their footage isn't live yet. Normally, they go live a little early. Oh, hold on. I have the podium. I have the podium for you right now. I have the podium for you right now. Give me a moment. There is the podium. Breaking news, we have the podium. In Arlington, Virginia. Via Reuters, the podium. What are they going to say? Are they going to talk about the helicopter restriction? Is there other updates? They just had a briefing yesterday. Is there some other significant update? As I said before, I don't think they felt they had to have a briefing today. Maybe they'll announce they got the black box from the helicopter. Ooh.
So maybe he's going to come. If he has all the stuff here, he will come because he's outside doing something. He will come. Are you agree? Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, sorry. Nice to meet you. So he is here. He's here somewhere. Outside doing something. Yeah. He's taking the reserve parking garage. So he's going to come. Yeah, he must have because he's going to pick up the stuff. I hope so, because I told him that he's not here when I leave, take it this way. No, he's coming,
Can you not bump this? I think that's what's causing that.
Thank you, Neil Johnson. Neil says the FAA is the only one that can close airspace. Yes, but my understanding is that the NTSB makes recommendations. So I know that they can't order something. I believe I know they can't order something like that, but my question with the helicopter airspace shutdown is NTSB, they say the most important thing they do is make recommendations to government agencies like the Department of Transportation based on their investigations. But the Department of Transportation announcement today about closing the airspace to helicopters for 30 days or so didn't mention the NTSB being a part of that discussion. So I'm wondering, is the NTSB not happy about this because in theory they're the ones who are supposed to recommend this kind of thing? That's the question. So I'm very interested to know, was that helicopter closure based on their recommendation, or was that just done not even talking to them? Thank you so much again, Neil Johnson. Thank you, Michael McIsaac, for your support. And Captain Jerry Donnelly. A couple people have said, oh no, I think we're good. I think we're good. Does it matter who made the recommendation? I mean, arguably, if the thinking is that, I don't know for sure, but my impression is that the NTSB traditionally is seen as the experts on this. Oh, 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning. The idea is that the NTSB are traditionally seen as the experts. So if that's the case, you would normally, I think the practice, the common practice has been to defer to them for these recommendations because they're the experts. And if that's the common practice and then all of a sudden somebody else has taken action without the NTSB's input, then the NTSB might say, well, doesn't that undermine the public confidence because we're the experts on this stuff? And if you have other people making changes not based on our recommendations, then can the public trust those changes are being made based on the best information, on the best analysis? That would be the thinking. Now, maybe it's common practice for the DOT to just do things without NTSB recommendations. I didn't get that impression, but I don't know. We'll see what they have to say about it. I think the Reuters hasn't turned up their microphone really. So we'll hear this. Don't worry about it. We'll hear it. Yeah, the mic, one of our viewers, M, said the mic is off. Or what? I think Reuters has not turned on the microphone audio. But I'll probably switch to the NTSB feed because that's normally, well, I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure both feeds will actually get. I have 2 different feeds I can show you, but I think I might go with the NTSB feed. Camera is moving. There's the room. Okay, here we go. Hold on. Hold on. Let's do it. Let's go over here. Here we go.
Hello, I'm Todd Inman. I'm the board member on scene, and we'll be briefing tonight where we're at in the investigation in regard to the CRJ accident with the Sikorsky helicopter. Let me just start with, as usual, Our hearts go out to all the families of the victims. In fact, I just spent the last several hours with them before we came here, and I apologize that we had to move this back. But they are one of our primary concerns, along with making sure we get factual information out. They are having it's a hard time for them, obviously. And we want to do everything we can to make sure they get the most accurate information and factual. And has always been at the core of the NTSB mission, our job is to just come out with the probable cause, but then more importantly, make recommendations so that this type of tragedy never occurs again. So today, I know yesterday you saw the chairman, myself, and all the board members here. I just want to let you know they are still actively involved with this. We're just trying to make sure we're dividing and conquering. The chairman and I have had multiple conversations today. She's helped out a lot in making sure we're getting the investigative needs we have. And she's at the command post right now working with some of our people. I'd like to start by just thanking the first responders. When this first happened, a unified command was set up, and we had a lot of important people that came and worked with us. In Virginia, the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, Arlington County Fire and Rescue, Arlington County Emergency Management, Arlington Police, Alexandria City Fire, Alexandria Police, Virginia State Police, the NCR Incident Management Team, the Virginia Department of Emergency Management, the Virginia Department of Transportation, the Virginia Senator Warner's office, MWA's Fire and Rescue Team, MWA Police. A special shout out to every one of them. MWA has been amazing in helping and working with us, and we're truly appreciative. Along with DC Fire and Rescue, just extraordinary in taking the lead. Prince William Fire and Rescue. In Maryland, the Montgomery Fire and Rescue, Prince George's Fire and Rescue, Charles County Fire and Rescue, Baltimore Fire, Baltimore Police, Anne Arundel Fire Department, Maryland State Police, Maryland Natural Resource Police, MPD, DCFD, from the federal side, the U.S. Coast Guard, U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force, FBI, Secret Service, Customs and Border Patrol, Park Police, DOD, Naval District Washington, American Medical Response, and yes, the U.S. Department of Labor. All of those have been amazing partners and are one of the reasons why that this investigation continues to progress the way we want it to. As I said, we did family briefings last night, and today there are over 100 family members that are now in the area receiving briefings, and as part of a legislative requirement, receiving family assistance. They have been briefed by the medical examiner, the fire chief, NTSB chairman, and myself, along with the family assistant unit from PSA Airlines. In regard to NTSB staff, all staff are now on scene that have been requested. And I want to point out one specific staff member, because we're doing a joint NTSB and DOD investigation. The NTSB actually has a Black Hawk certified pilot on staff, on our personal staff, based out of Alaska. Once we realized the dynamics and the intricacies of the Black Hawk, we have brought that member in. They are on scene now, providing direct technical assistance to the NTSB. That does not mean that the DOD is not working and helping with us, but in order to maintain our independence, we have our own Black Hawk certified pilot in the working group for helicopters. Regarding salvage at this point, the Navy Supervisor of Salvage is conducting salvage operations at the current time. Barges are en route from Virginia Beach, and we anticipate them to be on scene early tomorrow morning. After their arrival, they will be secured and located, and then significant salvage operations will continue. They are ongoing right now, but this will be the main lifting. It's being done in conjunction with the DC Medical Examiner's Office in order to make sure simultaneously that any additional victims are recovered and immediately turned over to them for identification and returned to their families. SupSal, which is the supervisor of salvage, is also conducting a debris mapping right now. This will help in our post-accident analysis of how the machine actually reacted to the incident. It'll also help us with understanding some of the airworthiness and crashworthiness and human factors. We have right now two distinct debris fields. One that houses the Sikorsky, which is in comparison to the CRJ, a little bit smaller. The CRJ is in another distinct area, and we consider a little bit larger. The good news is, based upon the initial mapping, while there are some small aspects of that debris field, there are large chunks that will be easily recoverable, and it will aid in the investigation when we bring it into the secured facility that will be located here on MWA. That will help us in the close proximity to be able to review and evaluate. Yesterday, we outlined for you a number of groups that have been stood up. A few of them in particular I want to call out, although every one of them have been working very hard. For your edification, the ATC group, Air Traffic Control, has been conducting interviews today. They're ongoing tonight. They will be ongoing for probably the next few days. We've had full cooperation in getting the witnesses that we need to gain those interviews. We will then take that information and match it with other data that we're receiving, and if necessary, conduct follow-up interviews at a later time. Our operations group now has on site an exemplar airplane similar to the CRJ 700. It's on a hard stand here at MWA. They will use that to evaluate cockpit configuration, seating, things like that. So whenever the salvage comes up, we're able to use an exemplary aircraft to match it against examples such as where maybe switches are, navigational aids, electronics. It is almost the exact same configuration as the incident aircraft. I want to clarify one thing. There's been a lot of questions and discussion regarding manifest. Let me make this very clear. The NTSB will not and has not released a manifest. We have not in our history, not in our past. We will not be in this accident. In fact, there's specific congressional language that whenever it is in our possession, it is not available through the Freedom of Information Act. It will not be included in our report. We will not be putting any names of any of the victims. Any release of that information will come from other individuals or groups. Regarding the recorders, as many of you saw last night, we recovered from the CRJ 2 separate recorders. One was a FDFR, that is a flight data recorder. FD. That was actually in what we consider good condition. As part of that process, it was soaked in alcohol overnight. It was then opened today, and we have a high level of confidence that we will be able to get a full download in the very near future. Now, once we do have that download, we will not be releasing immediately the information regarding it. We will have to go through, correct the data sets, make sure they're synchronized. This has approximately up to possibly 2,000 data points. Is that right, Bryce? So all of that has to be synchronized and looked at. It's a very laborious practice. It takes a lot of time. Regarding the CRJ's cockpit voice recorder, once it was recovered and opened, we found that it had water intrusion. That is not uncommon. It is not an unusual event for us to receive a recorder with water intrusion. We deal with that all the time. Our recorders division is one of the best in the country, in the world actually, and we have recorders sent everywhere, so there's a step. The CVR was soaked overnight in ionized water, at which point the team put the CVR into a vacuum oven in order to extract moisture. They are still checking electrical connections to determine if they're ready to try a download. It is one step of many steps that we will take in order to get that data, but we have a very high level of confidence that we will have it. We just have to work through a number of steps. Lastly, on recorders, the Sikorsky, where the CRJ has 2 separate recorders, the Sikorsky has a combined cockpit voice recorder and digital flight data receipt recorder. It's in one box. I can report to you now, we have recovered the Sikorsky black box. It is safely at the NTSB headquarters. It will begin an evaluation, just as the other 2 recorders did last night, to determine when and how to take action. I can tell you from a visual inspection, we saw no exterior damage that would indicate that it was compromised at this time. So we have a high level of confidence that we will be able to have a full extraction from that as well. Those are some of the significant updates we have right now. Obviously, we'll be doing some more in the essence of time and making sure our team gets back. I think we're going to be able to take maybe 4 or 5 questions. I'll call on you and I'll repeat it. So we'll try to play that game a little bit, please. Right here.
Thank you very much.
Your name and outlet, please.
Jonathan Kersley from Channel 9 Australia. Captain Sully Sullivan was one of the heroes of the incident on the Hudson, he said we absolutely should be reviewing airspace, not just here but in other places, and there's a complex mix of traffic. Is he right? Is there time for a permanent shift in DC and across the country to keep airspace safe and separated between military and civilian aircraft?
So the question for those watching, is it this time now for us to possibly deconflict or change some of the airspace where military aircraft operate with commercial aircraft? I can't give you a definitive answer on that. What I can say is in this incident, it should not have happened. We have in aviation what's called a Swiss cheese approach, wherein if something fails, a backup should catch it. Multiple layers of redundancy. It's been a very long time since we've had a major aviation incident in the United States, and that's the reason why it's one of the safest forms of transportation in the country. But the only way they do that is by investigating what happens now and then making recommendations in the future. Again, the NTSB has done 100,000 aviation investigations. We've issued 15,000 recommendations. Over 84% have been accepted. Once this investigative report comes out, we will be advocating probably for years for changes that need to be made, but we'll not speculate on what needs to be done until we have the facts.
Todd, is there anything obvious?
Hey, I'll call on people. Sorry.
Member Dave Jefferson from Reuters. Can you talk about how long you think it will take to recover the debris, how long you plan to be at site, and have you got any early data yet off the ATC tapes?
I think that was 3 or 4 together. How long the debris will take, how long we'll be on site, and have we gotten any information off of the air traffic control tapes. The debris, we are hopeful once the mapping is done that it will be done in what I will call quick order. I can make no guarantees of that because first and foremost, we need to make every effort and to make sure we're recovering every one of the people that perished in this accident. We'll have some cranes that'll be coming up, and once that happens, you'll see a lot more activity and we'll be moving that in, but I don't want to give you a definitive time. I would say it will start in earnest probably on Sunday, and it will go through next week, and some of that's contingent upon weather and other things. Regarding the ATC tapes, we've received a lot of different information on ATC, and so I'm just going to preempt it. Off-the-shelf software programs are not always as accurate as the data we specifically get from ADSB, from the black boxes. All of that are factors that come into our investigation. So we will not speculate about ATC tapes that you may have heard and seen online or snippets. We are getting the full cooperation that we need to be able to make an accurate assessment and to make sure what we are saying is factual and that it will help and aid in the entire investigation. You?
Todd, Steve Cooper from Channel 7 in Boston. Is there anything glaring from the videos that we've all seen that will tell you that the pilot in the Black Hawk helicopter made a mistake?
The question is, based on the videos, have we drawn any conclusions. We have not. We know that there was a significant incident in which the two aircraft collided, a pretty significant fireball. If you will recall, even after the first day, we only had maybe 1 or 2 grainy images that were coming out. We're seeing more and more at this time. So we're still collecting data, but we are not going to opine until we see a lot of other things in there. A couple more?
2 more?
Yes, sir.
Keep on team with CNN. How critical is it to interview the controller in the tower cab? And how concerning is it to you, the reports that that controller was working 2 positions at the same time?
So the question was, how critical are the air traffic control interviews and basically staffing? So air traffic control interviews are critical. That's the reason why there's a process in place. That began immediately after the accident. It was preservation of that evidence. It was immediately taking down notes, getting logs, all that information. We will go back and look at any air traffic controller that was involved in this. We'll go back and look at their past probably 72 hours, even 2 or 3 weeks. We'll look at their training, their hiring, everything, what they probably ate that day. But it is not one point that tells us everything. It's layered into a lot of other information that's very critical. Regarding staffing, the FAA has had a very robust plan in looking at staffing. Obviously, we'll be looking at not only staffing that day, but progressively staffing. How many people, what job functions they were doing. Were they being combined? Were they not? What was the weather outside? What was the number of landings? I recall back during COVID, 1 runway was being used. Runway 1, that was the only one. 33, as traffic came back, started being opened up. So we would look at changes in traffic patterns, construction at the airport, all of that. It all paints a very big picture. Who are you? Sorry.
Sorry, Leo with AP. Have investigators interviewed air traffic controllers at this point?
The question is, have we interviewed air traffic controllers? Yes. I think I started with.
Were they working at the time?
Sorry.
They were working at the time?
I'm sorry, the clarification. Was it an air traffic controller that was working at the time of the accident? Yes. Yes. Now, I'm not going to speculate. Sorry. Nope, sorry. I'm not going to speculate. The next question is, was there 1, 2, 3? I don't have the answer for that right now. I know that the controller that was working at the time has been interviewed, and his interviews are ongoing throughout the day. Yes, ma'am. Last one. The question is anyone from the White House reached out to me or other board members? I won't speak for other board members. I know that the chair did a briefing yesterday. It was publicly discussed and gave some information. I have not received any contact. I'm going to go back to something we talked about earlier. The NTSB is an independent bipartisan board. 58 years as the gold standard. Our job is to find the facts. But more importantly, our job is to make sure this tragedy doesn't happen again, regardless of what anyone may be saying. Our investigators never want to see this happen again, and I never want to have to go back and brief another set of family like that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Why is helicopters flying above 200 feet?
Okay, that was the briefing. You know, it's really interesting. So we're gonna take your comments in a second, but one of the really interesting things about that is, so I was watching some of the earlier briefing today that DC officials gave, and there were people in the earlier briefing with DC officials who were asking questions about this new order that came out today from the Department of Transportation, where the Department of Transportation announced that they're shutting down, hold on a second, I'll show you here, that they're closing airspace to helicopters around the airport, except for certain exceptions. But they're restricting helicopter traffic around the airport. And the answer that was given in the earlier press conference today by the DC officials is, oh, well, you're going to have to ask the NTSB about that. And like, they literally never mentioned it. Am I wrong? That I don't think he ever mentioned this closure of airspace, and then nobody asked about it. Nobody asked about it. It's really odd. They make recommendations. And so, like, it literally wasn't even mentioned. I mean, so that tells me, that suggests to me that this didn't come from the NTSB. It's so odd. I thought that the press briefing was going to be first and foremost about this, because I'm like, well, this seems like a big deal. And again, people asked about it in the earlier press conference today and were told, well, you're going to have to ask the NTSB about it. So it's very interesting that this major policy change was made and literally not a peep about it from the NTSB. Yes, Danny G says people seem to have more questions, but he left. My guess is that somebody would have asked about it. So I find that really interesting because that's like that's the change that's been made so far. Captain Jerry Donnelly says, what did he recommend? They haven't made any recommendations yet. They are gathering information. You heard what he said. They're still gathering information. He's not, they said, that, by the way, I believe that is the point person for this investigation. There's a head of the FAA, of the NTSB, but the person speaking was the point person for this investigation. So it's very interesting to me that this major policy change has been made, and it literally wasn't even mentioned. Also, I thought, so it's interesting. I have to say, I thought that they would give a press conference today. I wasn't aware that they were doing that they would do a daily update. So I apologize in the sense of, I thought there would be like a bigger announcement, because I was like, well, they just did a press conference yesterday. Maybe they just felt like they wanted to. I think it's great that they want to update everybody. Great. But I thought that maybe they had scheduled this to specifically announce some kind of big announcement. But it was really just like, here's an update on things. And maybe they'll do these every day now. I don't know. So, I mean, they did update. They said they have the black box from the helicopter. It was interesting to hear that they've already interviewed the air traffic controller, who I guess was the person most involved with this. But anyways, I'm disappointed nobody asked about this. Thomas Darwin thinks the NTSB is the only ones who know what they are doing. Well, I mean, what I was expecting somebody to say is, did you guys... What was this change based on your recommendation? And if not, what was it based on? And how do you, if it wasn't based on your recommendation, how do you feel about the fact that it wasn't? Did they talk to you about it? Did they run this by you? So this is what I would have asked if I could have been there. And again, let me just say again, remember, this is the board. They say on their website, the most important thing we do is make recommendations based on our investigations. They literally had a press briefing just like a couple hours after this major change was announced. The only major change that's been made in procedure at all, I guess. I mean, a couple runways are closed, but that's because I guess that's a temporary closure, I think, for around a week, because they don't want planes flying over like the recovery area. But this is like the first major change that's been made in terms of safety. And it literally wasn't even mentioned at the NTSB hearing. So it's really odd to me that they wouldn't mention it. You'd think they'd talk about it. I'm going to actually post something about it. Let me take some comments from you guys. Mark Sirkonis says nothing new from the press conference. Why again are they having it? Well, there was some new information. I mean, they did give an update about the black boxes, for example. Now you might be saying, Mark, maybe your view is that there wasn't like something like what you would think is like bigger than that. Yeah. So I mean, look, I'm all for them giving more press conferences. Maybe their plan is just to give regular ones to keep people updated. I wasn't aware that that was the plan, which is why I thought there was some sort of bigger announcement to be made today. But maybe that's their plan is just to do some regular, updates and say this is what we know for now. Also, he seemed to say that the reason it was late is because they were meeting with the families. I think. I mean, could there have been another reason? Sure. Let's see here. Armed Vet says they make recommendations after investigation is complete. That is false. They specifically said in their press conference yesterday that if they feel a safety recommendation is warranted, they will not wait until the end of the investigation. They will say it as soon as they think that. Thank you to James99 and Crazy Yoda. Crazy Yoda says that other incidents had been reported in the last few days before the crash disaster in waiting. I've seen some reports come out that that recently there was a close call with a helicopter. I think you need to be careful with those because so there was a report that came out. I read that on the air where the Washington Post, I think, had said that a day or two ago, there was a plane that was going to land and couldn't land because there was some helicopter in the area or something. I don't know how related to that this is. Maybe an expert would look at that and say, oh, that's very different than this case. I don't know the fact. There's just stuff we don't know about that. That scenario doesn't mean that a helicopter passed right in front of the path of the plane. What I'm saying is I would need to know more information to know, was a situation like that, how serious is it? How relevant to this is it? I don't know. I can try to find that again and show you, but I remember the report I read on the air from the Washington Post was not very specific about it. It didn't give the specifics. Maybe there's a world in which the helicopter is supposed to be 3,000 feet away and it was 2,900 feet away, and that's why the plane turned away. But some expert would say, well, there's a reason for that, and there was really no risk of a crash here at all. So or maybe it was a very serious breach of protocol and a very serious risk of a crash. I just don't know on those past reports. My point is that I would be careful of drawing too many conclusions from when you just hear about there was a close call or there was a similar incident previously, because if you were an expert and you knew all the details, you might have a different view on how similar or relevant it was. And maybe, again, you might think, maybe you think, oh, wow, that was just like this. But you might also think no, that's very different than this, what happened here. But I remember the report I read on the air from the Washington Post was not specific. I'm not blaming the Washington Post. I'm just saying they had talked about some earlier incident in the last couple of days, and it wasn't a specific report. I have a little update here. ABC News is reporting, this is on a different story. ABC News is reporting via Catherine Folders of ABC News says roughly 40 prosecutors in the DC U.S. Attorney's Office who had previously worked on January 6th cases were dismissed today, were fired today by the acting U.S. Attorney. Again, ABC News is reporting roughly 40 prosecutors in the DC U.S. Attorney's Office who had worked on January 6 cases were fired today. Update. I have another update. NBC News reports the Trump administration has forced out all 6 of the FBI's senior executives and multiple heads of various FBI field offices across the country. Sources tell NBC News. Again, NBC News just reported. The Trump administration has forced out all 6 of the FBI's most senior executives and multiple heads of various FBI field offices around the country. I kind of think maybe we should start a different stream because there's a bunch of Trump stuff going on and it's not relevant to this. What do you guys think about that? I could start a different stream and talk about that because this stream is the NTSB stream. What I can do is I can post a new stream and set it up that if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be taken to the new stream. So if you give me, we're certainly going to have more coverage of the plane crash. I need about a minute or two here to just set up the new stream. There is new breaking news tonight. Tariffs, FBI firings, and more. I'll say that. I'm just posting the new stream right now. Give me about another minute here, and I'll have that posted for you. Okay, I have it ready to go. I am posting it right now, and if you're watching on YouTube, you will be transported there. Okay, create, go live, typing in the title now. Yeah, because we got to cover that stuff, and this stream was about, again, this was about the plane crash. Okay, I just about have it posted. I just need to put the thumbnail there. Give me one more moment. And if while we're on the air, if there's something about the plane crash, we'll talk about that too. Okay. I am posting it right now. It is now posted. I'm going to post the link in the chat to the new stream. We're going to start a brand new stream on the latest Trump developments happening tonight. We're going to start it now. I'm posting a link in the chat right now. And hang on. I'm going to set it up on YouTube for you to be transported. You're going to get transported there on YouTube automatically. How about that? Customization. Redirect. I have set it up that you will be redirected. Let me also just post on our social media. We're going to be covering tariffs, DOJ and FBI reported firings, and more. Maybe we'll talk about the website stuff too. Hang on a moment here. All right, I just posted that. Just finishing posting. All right, get ready. We're about to go to the other stream. If you're watching on Twitch or Facebook or X, it'll be a new stream. Although I think on Twitch you can just leave it on, right? And it'll just come on the air. All right, so sorry to wrap up pretty quickly after the briefing, but again, there's some new developments with the Trump administration, and we'll keep an eye on the developments with the if there's new developments with the investigation into the plane crash and plane and helicopter crash. We'll talk about it on the next stream. All right, so really quickly. By the way, Stephen Skipworth, our viewer, thinks that the NTSB was not the NTSB's call to make the recommendation on the helicopter thing. So I need to look into that more. I personally am quite surprised that this major policy change was announced and the NTSB wasn't even mentioned as consulting on it, and they didn't bring it up. But as to whether that would be the usual, I do not know. But thank you, Stephen Skipworth, for writing in. Sorry, I would normally talk about that for a little longer, but I got to go to the next stream. News on prosecutors being fired and all that stuff, and tariffs. So, hey, thank you to our moderators, and thank you for watching this stream. But I'm literally going to end this stream now and start the next stream. So come on over to the next stream in about. It'll take me just a couple of minutes after starting this to put that stream up everywhere. But within hopefully 2-3 minutes, I'll have the next stream going. So I appreciate you watching. And come join us on the next stream in a couple of minutes. And hopefully I will see. And thank you to all of our mods. I really appreciate all of our mods for being here. And also thanks to DRT, just a couple, DTRG65, thanks for your support. Crazy Yoda for your support. Ada Gedin, thank you. Crazy Yoda, I'll have to look at your article that you sent me. And also Massachusetts Guy and Devoted Fairy on Twitch and Notorious Rob, thanks for your support. All right, ending the stream now, starting the next stream in about 2-3 minutes. So I'll see you on the next stream.